At about 6:45 p.m. tonight, we received a call for a retail theft at Kohl's department store. The officers responded, and before they get there, the suspect, and her name is Roxanne, I think it's R-I-M-E-R. I could be wrong on that. It could be two M's, but anyhow, she was detained by Kohl's security. She flees security, gets into a black Cavalier operated by her grandfather and occupied by her mother, begins a fight inside. They have no idea what occurred inside the store. Grandfather just wants to leave. He realizes that there's something going on. He wants to stop. She forces and somehow manipulates and gets her foot on the accelerator of the car, and it drives over a small hillside. Still drivable. I don't know what kind of damage it had. A lot of screaming, a lot of commotion. Kohl's advises us there seems to be something going on inside the car. The grandfather's trying to sort out what happened. Mother screaming that the daughter's out of control. Somehow the car continues out of that area where it went off the hillside, at which point eventually the police car stops them on Route 18, which isn't far from Kohl's. When the officers get there, a lot of commotion in the car based on the facts that I told you earlier. The officers take her, who's out of control, handcuff her behind her back, and put her in one of the police cars while they're sorting out with the driver and the other occupant of the car as to what occurred, and looking for evidence of the retail theft, which actually turned into a robbery because she pushed the security guard to escape. Shortly thereafter, the officers hear a thud. She was handcuffed behind her back, manages somehow to crawl through the window and get into the controls of the police car. The officer sees it, then when he can't get in the car. With her back turned and her hands cuffed behind her back, she manages to put it in gear and drive. And from what we can gather, she drove at very high speeds with that position. Her hands were behind her back and somehow manipulating the gears, the steering wheel, we're not sure. Thank God nobody else was hurt. However, as she leaves the scene, she bumps into one of our other police cars and does hit the rear end of the car of her grandfather. We're not certain that there was not any other cars struck. We don't believe there have been any other cars hit at this point. She continues on Route 51 south into Pittsburgh area, which actually she ends up in, I think, Crescent Township or South Heights. I'm not sure, the Walktown Road, I believe it is. She gets out of the vehicle. We believe another vehicle picked her up. We don't know the circumstances that led to that. And she then either jumped out of that vehicle or the vehicle dropped her off in Aliquippa. And Aliquippa police picked her up, still in handcuffs, on the street. So she's facing robbery charge from the initial retail theft. She's facing multiple traffic violations, aggravated assault. She almost hit two of our officers, recklessly endangering, theft of a motor vehicle, and what other charges I'm not certain at this point. Possession of drug paraphernalia. She had suspected needles in her possession.
Suspected what?
Needles. And she had warrants out. She had bench warrant out from the sheriff's office on her as well. So she's been placed in jail on the bench warrant now while we're sorting out all the charges to get the paperwork done. And we can at least put her in jail on the bench warrant until we sort out, all the other charges that are going to follow, which are probably consistent with what I said. One of the officers indicated she was going over about 100 miles an hour on 51. So at that point, our guys backed off the pursuit. No reason to go. And then they did discover the car in, I'm not sure where it was. It's in Walktown Road, somewhere south.
Crescent.
It's a Crescent Township.
Was she driving with her upper body?
As best as we can determine. Now, most of the pursuit is going to be captured. Our camera should have been running the entire time. Now, I don't know if that camera is going to capture her operating the motor vehicle as much as it is the scenery and the circumstances as where she went and how she got there. And obviously any other car she hit should be on videotape. So
she was in the back seat to begin with. Is there like a plexiglass?
There's a plexiglass window that must not have been latched shut. The officer wasn't anticipating, someone being put in that car at that point. And they just put her in there to control her until they could figure out what was going on. And somehow or another, she manipulated through that. She's a thin girl, right. And she was able to get through that small opening that a lot of people maybe couldn't do. But the part that's just a little bit striking is that driving the vehicle handcuffed behind your back and being able to operate that.
When she was taken into custody in Aliquippa, did she still have the handcuffs on?
I believe she did. I'm not certain on that, but I believe she did. Okay. And the initial theft and the circumstances that led to the police being called, the grandfather and the mother, who were in the car, mother as passenger, grandfather as a driver, were not aware of what had happened inside and knew something was wrong, was trying to sort it out, and she was insistent upon getting out of there as soon as possible.
What was it she stole in Coles?
I'm not sure. And she was backwards, operating the gear shift with her, getting it in gear with her hands behind her back.
Are you guys planning any kind of blood test?
For driving under the influence? That's possible. I don't think that probably not at this point. She's pretty hysterical. I think that charge would just merge into the other charges as well. We could still charge her based on her actions. Obviously she seems to be somewhat impaired.